I've got the task of making these replacement frets for this Georgian bracket clock. I've made the two front ones and one of the side ones. I've just got one left to do. So you make a template out of cardboard, transfer this onto the brass, which is 16 gauge. So the blank's been coated in layout blue. I put it in position and then I just scribe around the aperture so I know which bit's visible before I can start marking out the fish scales. I've scribed a border about 2mm in from the original aperture line. Then I divided it into 5, then scored out the arches, which are the fish scales, just a semicircle with a small semicircle inside, and then staggered the next row. I do about 3 rows at a time. If you do any more than that, my fingers are quite dry and rough, and from the filings from the brass as well tends to rub the ink off, so you have to re-ink now and again. So I think 3 is about as much as you can do. The next thing is to punch all the bits that need to be removed and drill them, then start fretting them out. Started cutting out the fish scales. I do it this way rather than with an electric, because electrics tend to use a small amount of blade and they get hot and break quite easily. Just put a bit of candle wax on it and use as much of the blade as I can. And when I've finished a full row, then I can just use a needle file just to get any little bits that I'm not happy with. So I'll do that row, clean those up, and then I'll put some more ink on. You can see it's starting to scratch there, and it's a bit weak there. So I'll rink it up, put another 3 rows on, and cut again until I've made it all the way up to the top. So I've worked my way up to the top. I've just got a few little bits to take out to bring it up to the borderline. If it was a square top, if it was straight across the top, you'd have to make sure that it finished at the top of an arch. You don't want it halfway through, so you'd have to divide it up first before you start cutting. It doesn't really matter with an arch one, because they all finish in different places anyway. But if you add or take off 1/2 mil off each one, you could actually add another row. So it's easy enough to adjust it slightly, so you'd have to work it out so it finished correctly if it was a straight top. So I've finished cutting them out, then I sanded them down so they're nice and clean. Then I placed them in this plastic tub, and inside I placed also this little tray which I put some very strong ammonia in. Sealed it up, left it for about an hour and a half, and then it tarnished them so they look old. The next thing to do is to glue the material on the back, which is this red cotton. I'm just putting a little bit of glue around the edge of the fret. It's just ordinary PVA. I don't want too much because I don't want to spread it into the material so you can see it. And just pop that on there. And when it's dry, I'll trim it round and then I'll paint the back with French polish. Now with the cotton glued on just around the edge, I'm just going to brush on some button polish which will darken it, but it also helps to stick the fabric to the fret all across the back. It does make it darker, but that's not a bad thing. So there's the frets completed and fitted in the case. If you wanted them polishing up, you could just take them out and rub them down with a bit of fine sandpaper, but I think they look better like that. The feet could do with being toned down a little bit.